All right, here's a date and time. All right. Hello, everyone. I wanted to talk to you about an object that had a very big impact on my life. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, that object is none other than this pawn from a game of chess. Now, why is a pawn having big impact on my life? Not to do with it too much realistically, but symbolically, it has very big impact and can be connected to my life. Now, back in high school, I wasn't really too outgoing. Yeah, I had a very low self-esteem. Didn't really talk to that many people. Just did whatever came to mind, stuff like that. I haven't really touched upon being one of the best, just being one of the best kids in the school. I haven't studied too much, had very little motivation. But that's when I discovered the game of chess in 11th grade. Now, when I started playing chess, I didn't really think too much of it. But then, it was just I thought of it as a nerdy game as well. Even to this day, I still think of it as a nerdy game. But one thing I discovered as I got better at playing chess was that I never give up in a game of chess, even in a losing position. Now, why am I talking about chess? How does that relate to my life? Well, in my life, like I said, I had a very low self-esteem, and I had no motivation, little motivation to study, little motivation to succeed back in high school. But I never let that take control of my life. Although I was in a very bad position back in high school, I never let that take control of where I am today. Instead, I used it as motivation. Just thinking of it, I'm gonna eventually get into a better position. Just give it time, and I'm gonna work all things out. Which is exactly where I am right now. Actually, I worked things out towards the beginning of college, and then now I am doing really well in school. Doing really well in school, boosting my self-esteem in many different ways, including working out. I started playing guitar, just a lot more things. Found a lot more hobbies that I enjoyed, which boosted my self-esteem. And now I have one more year of a nursing school that I'm much well prepared to conquer, and just absolutely destroy, knock out of the park. But then, how is that compared to the game of chess that I was previously connecting to? Well, the pawn in the game of chess is a very weak piece when it starts off in the game, and no one really pays too much attention to the pawn unless it turns into a queen towards maybe the middle of the game or the end of the game when it reaches the end of the board. Like the pawn, I was very weak. Mentally, I was very weak. I didn't really do much. As I mentioned earlier, had a very fragile ego, self-esteem. But now I'm a queen. Not literally, but I became much stronger mentally and physically. I gained a much stronger self-esteem, and now I'm ready to win the game of life that's been, tormenting me the past few years. And yeah, that's about it.